Hello, how's it going? Konnichiwa, usashibori bonjour. I'm Intercept. This is my track breakdown for Kaonashi. And yeah, a few of you have been asking me to do a track breakdown to see how I work, blah blah blah. So yeah, I'm taking the opportunity to finally do something I've never done, a track breakdown live, well, not so live, and talking to my computer in a room by myself. Anyway, let's play the damn tune. Yeah. If you know the tune, you know the tune. If you don't, well, now you do. So, I will go through the elements in this track and try and explain why I did this or how I did this. When I first made this, maybe about a year ago, just over a year ago, it was during lockdown, the first lockdown in New Zealand, which was really fun. I didn't really know what I was doing, so I took a few Patreon courses, Synergy, Emperor, Gaidra, and I took what I learned and applied it to what I thought was correct and came up with this. So I thought it'd be really important to show this project because, from a beginner's point of view, it's about creating the idea, creating something that works, modifying it, carving it, sculpting it, and thus an abomination is born. So yeah, let's get into it, which would be really good. Um, what can I start off with? God, this is a clutter. This is just the way I work. My newer way of working is probably much messier than this, so judge me, don't judge me. Yeah. So, okay, drums. I think this kick, it came from a sample pack, and I think it originally was another key. Modified it, resampled it, and for some reason I pitched it down, which is something I wouldn't really do. I'd normally keep most of my drums in probably a C or a D. Sorry, the kick in the C or a D, so I wouldn't have any phasing issues with the sub bass or the dominant key of the track. But if it works, it works. But just kind of bear that in mind. I think most of the snare and the hats were taken from a break pack. I think this might have been a disapproved break pack, I believe. Yep, that's what it used to sound like. So let's turn off some of these layers. Yep. I think the idea for this was something along the lines like Whip Slap by Dimension, Bunker by Culture Shock, like a really generic, simplified F minor banger is what I usually call it. And through my DJing career of some sort, I was quite renowned for just playing 1 hour full of just F minor bangers, but which is what I could kind of get along with. That was my flow of working, but I was heavily inspired by those sort of bigger tunes, simplified tunes, and they seem to work with anything else. If you're a DJ, you should definitely know this. If you don't, then explore that realm. It's very good. It's a good way to kind of get the flow going, especially for neurofunk. It's high energy. It's double dropping, triple dropping. It's about combining as many tunes as you can in a short amount of time, and this is what I kind of wanted to bring to the table. And I think the drum beat, the rhythm is just really simple and there wasn't really anything too crazy, but I should just stop rambling and just play what I've done. Which it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I think I just added in layers of percussion and hats to get a rhythm going. I think this one was an Emperor sample, I believe. I think when I checked most of the channels... Oh wow, amazing. That's not doing anything. I think I gave minor boosts for something like the snare. And for some reason I gave a massive boost for the kick, which is something I wouldn't really do at the moment, but it works. It is what it is. I think I added a little bit of stereo width or a snap behind it with another snare or click. Well, rim shot of some sort, and then I got this. Usually when I put projects together or come up with an idea, I start with the drum beat or start with a percussion rhythm of some sort. I usually hack it up or create some sort of drum loop, and then I would add in the bass or a synth or a vocal or something like that to kind of add a little bit of flavor, give it a backbone, and then you start dwelling on the idea or dwelling on the direction. But it's all honestly like faffing around, coming up with an idea, trying to see if it actually works. And if you're a producer, you would definitely know. Yeah, it can be a bit of a struggle street with like 50,000 unfinished projects, and one does eventually come out, and it's gold. You know, like you just got to keep trying, and then eventually it will work out very well. What else can I explain? I think that's kind of it for the drums and the percussion. There's probably more along the way. I think there's probably variations, but that comes along once you place in the bass. So let's bring in the bass, which is this. Oh, no sub bass. There you go. So I think the bass originally was a Synergy sample from their Patreon sample pack. Highly recommend. Very good. What did it sound like? What does the original sound like? Actually, let's turn off the effects and see what it sounds like originally. So yeah, that was the original. I mean, I could have put a drum beat, drum loop on top of it and called it a day. You'd be like, yeah, I am producer. But no, I wanted to at least change the key, give it a little bit of polishing. So I think, what did I do? I put Saturn. I think I put a multiband. I kind of messed around with some of the presets and found something that I guess sounded kind of a little bit better. And then I think I spent probably a couple of hours just messing around like with one preset and one FX, which is a bit sad. But that's how you create the idea. That's how you hear a sound that inspires you, and then it starts to get the creativity working. And then I layered it with Trash 2. I think was just no, it wasn't a multiband mode. It was just the negative preset. And then I think the other two filters were modulation through, which is not what I'll do now. I'd rather use Pro Q3, and I'll probably modulate a filter cutoff or a sweep, and then modulation for reverb, and I think Pro Q3. Oh yes, the most important thing, since there's a kind of a harsh element, I put a wave shaper on the end of pretty much most harsh elements or chains, and then it kind of, if you don't know what a wave shaper does, you should definitely YouTube it or Google it. So basically, it's a limiter that's not limiting your clipping, your soft clipping or your hard clipping, the elements. And I can go on about it. I can show an example, but you can probably put in a bass or like a really harsh element, put on a clipper, and then put, well actually, I'll just do it now. Where is it, where is it, where is it, where is it, where is it? There you go. I'm using two screens, I'm not sure if you'll be able to see the other stuff, but... Basically, if it's pretty dynamic, it will carve off a little bit of those harsh elements. I've used it, it works. It puts less work in for the limiter on the master chain, which I'll go on about later on. And yeah, it seems to tame most elements, and you get a pretty fat sausage towards the end of your final output, and that's what I want, because we're making neurofunk, it's supposed to be quite loud, compress, not dynamic, and you're supposed to be hitting the roof of the ceiling of the limiter. And yeah, so basically, yeah, I put all the effects on, and then what I did was, because I was putting so many effects on, I was kind of worried that I'll be destroying a lot of the transients and a lot of the original low ends, which is probably what I'm not doing right now, but I curved off the bottom end because I wanted to recreate my own sub, because I resampled it from, originally the sample was an E minor and I changed it to an F. So I brought it up just one key, and that was me calling it a day. So basically, there's no sub, there's no oomph behind it. So what I did was I brought in my serum. Yes, there's a world supply of samples in there, don't judge me. Where is it? Here it is. There it is. It is just a really basic sine wave. It's all it really is, just one oscillator. And the thing that I could recommend, if it will play, is make sure that, I mean, you can probably do it in the EQ as well, but what I usually do is I turn the attack probably just a little bit away from the default position, because you probably can hear a little bit of a click. And just roll it away from that harsh end. You can do the same thing in the EQ, but that's just the way I do it. It means that I've got less things on my FX chain, more CPU, more time, more room for fucking around, and that's kind of it. That's what I would rather do. I don't know why I boosted it so much, but I think there's probably a reason for that. So yeah, just a really simple oscillator, sine wave, and that is how I created my sub bass. That's how it works. Oh yeah, most important thing. Where is it? Come back to me. Serum, thank you. Keep it on mono. And you can put on portamento if you really want to, but I will explain that in another track breakdown some other time. So yes, we recreated sub bass, really simple. So yep, that's the bass, that's the drums. Ah, no sidechain. How could I forget about that? So what I do for sidechain is I have like a really, just like a click. I think for some interesting reason I use the snare, and I really stretched it back into where it's supposed to be. But there is no link to the master, so what I would do is I'll create, just a snap transient and assign it to a channel. Where is it? And call it the sidechain trigger. And you can see it on YouTube, blah blah blah. You disable it from the master, so there's no feed, there's no sound coming in. Sorry, sound going out. The sound coming in, but there's no sound going out. And I would sidechain it to the trigger to the compressor, and I use Pro C2. And obviously you go into your settings, blah blah blah. If you're the sort of person who uses Pro C2, and then you select your stereo sidechain. So now you've got a signal coming in. Yes, this is probably better for doing this, because I used to route a drum bus to the compressor, but what happens is it starts creating artifacts, and you will start hearing little clicks, bobs, glitches and stuff. It's probably I don't think the compressor can keep up with it. There's a logical explanation behind it. It's science for what it is, and then other producers who gave me feedback recommended that use a trigger because it eliminates the possibility of having artifacts and stuff. And I've made a tune before and I thought it sounded really sick, but after listening to it for like the 50th time, I could actually hear the clicks and the bobs. And once I eliminated the sidechain problem, then that nightmare quickly ended, which is really good. So anyway, highly recommend that. Yeah, this is just, honestly, there's different ways of playing with sidechain. Just play around with the compressor, meaning for the fact your release is what you should kind of play around with. Depending on what sort of feel that you want, you can have like a not so aggressive sidechain, but I think this one's quite aggressive. I don't know why I put it like that. I think I just like the sound. I think I just wanted it to be the sort of way, create more space, probably too much space, but hey, look, it works. It creates cheese, melts faces, and I'm happy. So yeah, that is the sidechain. So the trigger is put in place where the kick and the snare is. I can put it in other places if I wanted to, but, and I think you're probably thinking, what the fuck did you link to the sidechain? I think I linked almost everything to the sidechain. No, I didn't. Everything except for most of the hats. Oh, the snap, the wide snap that I was talking about before. Sorry, this click. It's not linked to the sidechain because it is a layer for the drum bus. Sorry, drum group. So the kick and the snare usually, well, actually don't go to the sidechain. So I keep them open and free because they're your strongest transients. If you think about it, the way that you portray it on your DAW is normally I put your most important elements like your kick and the snare at the top of the list because those are the two things you want to really stand out. I probably would have put this up here, but I put that down there because I think it was just like another decision later on. I think for a while it was something else, and then I think I added it later on, and then yeah, it works. So yeah, keep those elements free, keep them open. Do not fuck with them. That's all I can say. You're probably thinking, like, how do you get to this point? Is this how you usually work? Do you build a drum bus, build a bass loop, and then build your sidechain behind it? Pretty much, yes. You build a drum loop, or put in a group or whatever, your percussion loop, and then put in your bass, and then set up your sidechain. Once the project, which is also handy, set up a default template for you to load, where all of this is already set up. Your trigger set up, your compressor is set up, all your channels are already assigned. Save that as a template so then you can open it as like a loading system. It was like a loading project. So then you can go through it and then it's all ready to go. So you just drag and drop whatever you want. Everything's all linked, everything's all set up, and then you can have more time to kind of start creating stuff or not worrying about cleaning up your project or not worry about setting it all up again. So highly recommend that. So once you got your drum bus, your sidechain percussion and stuff set up, then yeah, you're ready to start creating ideas, which is that noise, pretty much. Anyway, I'm rambling because that's what I do. I'm a creative. I ramble about stuff that does make sense. Anyway, where is it? So the vocal chops, that's right. These things. I have no idea where the sample came from. Somewhere deep in the archives, I found it. I think I kept the original. Oh, here it is. Yes. So there, that's the original. So I think I hacked it up, placed it into where it is. Yes, it's already F minor, so I was very lucky. Just cheating, hacksaw. Hacked it up and it became this, which is, well, probably sick of hearing this loop over and over again. So let's turn it off. Where is it? Yeah, simple, it works. It wasn't really a part of the original tune, and then I think last minute I was like, yo, that's sick. And yeah, I guess it kind of adds a little bit of flavor, a different sort of element behind it. Yes, probably inspired by Amanu, that sort of, new trend coming through, or current trend that's sitting out there at the moment. But yeah, no, I put it in there and it worked, and I think it kind of made it a little bit weird. So that's what made me kind of happy about it. Let's put everything back on. There isn't really that much complexity to this tune because yes, it is an F minor banger. Like, it's a pretty comprehensive, playable tune. Like, it will play with anything else that's in F minor. And yeah, it's a pretty fun, simple tune. I mean, it's a 44 drop. I could have made it a 107, but because the way that I mix or the way that other people mix Neurofunk, yeah, it's pretty fast paced, so no time to faff around, buddy. I think the build up, I think this synth, I think this one came from the Blackout sample pack. Are there any effects in it? Why is it assigned to a 26? Oh, some EQ. Some busted trash, nice. Some trash that's not being used. And some more reverb. That's what I mean, like, you'll start playing around with ideas. Sound good, sound not good. You'll add in some automation for some of the reverb. It may not work, or might sound really good, but you won't really know until you actually try. And then you're like, oh yeah, that sounds really sick. And then last minute you're like, nah, that sounds shit. And then you'll just can it in the end. So just do whatever works for you. Whatever works best. Experiment, explore. Don't rush your project. You haven't really got a time limit. You shouldn't have a timer unless you're like a, unique producer and someone's like, yo, bruv, give me a tune. You've got like 2 days. Don't let that get to you, man. Like, I've had that get to me where the pressure is real and I've rushed through a project and it just ended up sounding like shit. Submitted a demo and yeah, I wasn't really too happy about it. And then obviously they came back and it's pretty shit. And I was like, good, because I think it's shit too. Thanks, buddy. So yeah, don't rush things. Don't put pressure on yourself. I feel like I've definitely delivered that Bob Ross segment, but it's very important that you know these sort of things. What else is in the intro? Oh yes, this weird thing. I think this was also from the Blackout sample pack. And I hacked it up and placed it over here. Oh, almost forgot. This section here. The other weird bass greasy thing. Part of that is in there, and this is... Oh. So I think all of that is actually linked to the same channel. It's about hacking things up, putting them where you think they sound right, play around with some ideas, just take your time, see what sounds weird. Interesting. Put that in a different place. So yeah, these ones here, most of the main elements, all the base elements, will be linked to the same chain as the main base, depending if you want to change the sound. So it's still running through the same chain that I had before. And if it sounds good, it sounds good. If it doesn't sound good, link it to another chain. Put some different effects on it. If you do run out of space, bounce it out, resample. Bear in mind, you can always overcook the concept. It's like cooking pancakes. They smell good, they look good, and then like 2 seconds later, they're fucked. You're like, oh shit, I've overcooked it. And that's all it takes. You just overcook it way too much, and then you have to revert to an older version. So just take your time, yeah, experiment, and then if it sounds good, save it. Why do I keep doing that? Anyway, this part here, this is what I'm supposed to be talking about. This section here, I think it goes up 1 key to an F sharp. Oh yes. the Vengeance sample pack. I wanted a vinyl stop. So that's just slot in there, give it a bit of effects. So yeah, this weird sample, I think I cut it up into a loop, and I think I was just messing around, and then I placed it in here, and yeah, no, it kind of just glued together. It just kind of sounded weird, and I enjoyed it. Otherwise, you'll just have the same loop going over and over again. You just, yeah, have your switch by adding in a hat. And then it's just the same thing over and over again. I like to kind of add a little bit of variation to the next 16, which is important. Because usually, I don't know, depending on the way you mix, depending on the way you listen to music is, usually, yeah, you drop this in or you double drop it and then you drop out your second tune and let this tune play out around here. And then that's how you keep the mix going. That's what I wanted, that's why I did it, and that's why it's got that little stop there. So yeah, it adds a bit of switch, a bit of variation to the switch, if that makes any sense. Oh yeah, this is a part of the original bass. I think it goes F minor, F sharp, and I think this one goes to an A sharp or an A. Well, I can't tell because it's just all hacked up now, but... Yep, which keeps going along, and just add like minor imperfections or minor changes that kind of give it a little bit of a switch, like kind of, you know, create something unsuspected, but not too random, but people like a little bit of switch. It's funny, like when you play in a club, and you surprise the punter, they're like, oh, nice, did not expect that, face melter. Oh yeah, the most important part of the tune, the little drum roll. Oh, there it is. That's the one. Yeah, I guess I placed it in there. It sounded cool. This is exactly what you would hear from a producer explaining about a tune that they made, and they look at it and say, I don't actually really know why I did that. I put that there, sounded cool. Yep, cool. Here we go. Honestly, try it out. Sounds cool. I think the inspiration came from Break. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Break tunes. He does a lot of it. So does Emperor. Kind of adds like a little bit of like organic aesthetics behind it, opposed to just being purely digital or purely just modernized. But it's cool. Try it out. Cowbell. I don't know why I bounced it out. There's probably a reason why. But and then I bring in some of the intro elements. Sorry I didn't go over it before. The best way to explain it is, yes, have some white noise. White noise is very important. So I think this might have been bounced out from something. Maybe it was 3-osc or another oscillator. Maybe it was the sample. But you can make the same. You can make white noise and just filter it. That's all a riser is. It's just a filter going in, going out. So usually I reverse the riser to go backwards. So when you come to the breakdown, it kind of gives a little bit of a cool down sort of aesthetic. And because I wanted the mix to kind of keep going, the track to keep going, well, also if it's in a mix, to keep it rolling, I didn't want it to end, so I wanted to kind of just build back up and go back into the same drop. So that means, yes, I can bring in another tune, and then, yeah, keep it rolling. There's one element that I think I might have missed. Oh yeah, the intro, weird synth atmosphere thing. Which is also another sample. Wow. Kendall, Intercept, Sample King. I thought you were OG. Hey, I was a noob, don't judge. yeah, I think I just rolled off some of the top end, kind of cut out some of the high frequencies. There might have been a reason why I done it. I think it gives it kind of like a little bit of a dumbed down sort of aesthetic, not too harsh, kind of tames the elements. And most of the elements are just pretty much just modulated, like filtered, um, high pass, low pass. That's how it kind of rolls in because you want it to have some continuity. You want it to not just suddenly start, which you can do, but sometimes it might be a little bit too stark, a little bit too random. Doesn't really kind of glue together. You want the elements to kind of come together, like that tune, and you want it to kind of all flow together. You want it to all be as one. Depending on the tune, but most of the time having continuity is quite important, especially, the intro and the build up. You want it to roll into the drop. But like I said, it all depends on the tune. Well, I think that's pretty much it. There's nothing else I can really think about that's that super important to talk about. But like I said in the beginning, this project, this tune is just about creating the idea, creating something. It doesn't have to be simple. It doesn't have to be complex, especially if you're a beginner like I was during that time. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I wanted to just try and create something. I wanted to make something that I don't know, I wanted to sound cool or I wanted to kind of work out quite well. I think I could have added more or I could have just changed the rhythm or made it less basic, but I think the way that it is for a starting point, I think it was kind of alright. I made it, I bounced it out. Um, yeah, I saved it as a demo and I sent it to ProtoCode. I didn't show anyone else. I didn't tell anyone else. I guess I felt quite self-conscious, but at the same time, I felt a little bit ambitious or confident. I was like, maybe it's good. I don't know. I have to show someone else. So yeah, I sent it to a label, sent it as a demo, and they loved it. They really liked it, and they signed it straight away. So you won't know until you try. That's the best piece of advice that I can probably give. Oh no, wait. I forgot about the most important thing. People are probably wondering how loud this is. The master chain. That's right. Oh, always forget about it. Oh yeah, name your layers. Really important. Because otherwise you just assigned it to everything and you forget, what does this do? What does that do? Yes. You don't have to, but that's just the way that you remember things. Unless you're a goddamn elephant, but I'm a goldfish. So, name your layers, color coordinate them. And then, master chain. What do I do with my master chain? I put the world supply of wave shapers, just one. Do a little bit more clipping. Probably don't have to do that. It's probably unnecessary, but I just do it because I can. Don't want to just give the limiter a little bit less work to do. I don't know why I compressed it. There's probably a reason why. I think I watched the tutorial. Oh yeah, bear in mind, when you see tutorials, when you learn things from different producers, people have different ways of doing things. So don't get overwhelmed about, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? It's all right. People find their own way of working. If it works for them, it works for them. So just bear that in mind, because I did get a little bit stressed about that. It's like, wait, if he says it's right and the other guy says it's right, then what's a potato? What's going on? Don't confuse me. So, yep, that's probably the reason why I put that in there. EQ, that's doing fuck all. Amazing. And Pro L2. That's all I really have in my master chain. And I think what I do now, I put on Signalizer. Great plugin. It's free. Not because it's free, is why it's great, because it's just actually good. It does its job. Exactly what I want. So, yep, so I normally run everything and see where it goes. How loud should it be? It shouldn't be that loud. I mean, you can try and get it to -4 LUFS, see where it goes. It doesn't really matter, honestly. Like, you can really try and compress and limit and wave shape and clip to get it to -4, but if you can, you can. Well done. If the mix sounds good, doesn't distort, well done. But I think this one got to -5, And dude, honestly, it's playable. The elements sound fine. That's what I mean. This is why I almost forgot to show you this. This is why it's really important. That keep watch on all your elements. Analyze them, see what they're doing. Oh yeah, if you don't know Span, you should get Span because it's free and it's really good. It's really important. I use it for almost everything. Visual analyzer, spectrum analyzer, you get to see anything. And if you don't know what this does, then I can't explain. So the way that I set up, you can kind of adjust your colors, blah blah blah. I run it on mid-side mode, so I get to see the mono and stereo balance, and that's the most important thing about your mix is a good mono stereo balance. Because yes, I think another producer, another tutor said to me, yeah, if your element's a little bit too wide, well, actually way too wide, then if you play on a big system, you probably will lose most of those elements. Like for example, if you made most of your snare to, oh wow, a star, um, too wide, then we kind of get lost in the system and you won't hear it. And I've had other tunes where I've made things way too wide and they just magically disappear. Or if it's too mono, then it just sounds shit. It sounds too crap, but don't stress too much about it as long as your elements are relatively good. The best way to put it is find a tune that's not, you know, the golden turd, but find something that's pretty good and then drop it into your DAW, put on your span, and just analyze and see where the levels are. Yeah, I mean, from what I can see, this looks relatively normal. I mean, it's fine. It could be better, probably, but now when I look back on it, I would definitely change a lot of things. But for example, like the sub, people always say, "Oh, where should my sub be?" Well, your sub should never really hit above zero. But people say, well, if it's not above zero, then where should it be? Usually for an F minor tune, or most drum and bass from what I've seen, sorry, Neurofunk, most Neurofunk that I've seen, yeah, most of the subs hit around like a negative 27 dB, negative 30 dB. Oh, the stars come back. And yeah, I mean, that's how I kind of reference my sub because I always used to stress about it. It's just my dilemma. So I usually keep things around there. And I think with like kick and snares, just play it by ear. Sometimes you'll definitely know if you play back the whole entire mix, you'll definitely know if you're kicking your snares way too loud. And then just kind of like nudge them down to where you think it sounds appropriate. And then, yes, when you do send your final demo to someone, a professional preferably, they will tell you, they'll say, oh, your kick's way too loud or your snare's way too loud. And then that way you can kind of just adjust things or just kind of sculpt yourself into perfection. But yeah, just always check your mid side, your mono stereo balance. I always make sure that I have a little bit of stereo in my snare. Um, I either do that by, how would I do it now? One way you can do it, you can probably put Pro Q3 on, you can go side, and you can probably boost a little bit side, but I usually keep my main snare the way it is, depending if I make it from scratch or if I hack it up by using samples. And then I use the synthesis through Serum to kind of give the attack for it. But usually I layer a clap or a snap, as I would have done in this tune, behind it, and you cut out where your snare transient would be with volume automation. So behind it is like the tail, or like the body and the tail of the clap. And I think that's what I did in Nexus. And yeah, they kind of added just a little bit more stereo to that snare, which is good. And then you carve it or sculpt it or adjust it by using Pro Q3. And if you use a sample that's got probably a really shitty imbalance of mono stereo, you can use MSCD, but bear in mind that you use MSCD and you run span underneath it, or wherever, and then play it back. And just see what it's doing. If your core, your snare, is way too stereo, then yeah, it's going to start clashing with other elements. So just try and keep it clean. Just make sure you roll off your frequencies, like your bass and your sub. Make sure no elements are clashing with each other. Yeah, just make sure that your project is tidy. Don't get too frantic about it, because sometimes, yes, it is true. I think as Bunshin said, it can be a little bit too clean sometimes. So just bear that in mind. Master chain. God, I'm good at rambling. That's great. Yeah, -5. It's fine. It's loud. It's loud enough. And then bear in mind that when you send it to the label, it will be at -6 dB, either 16-bit, 24-bit floating point WAV, and then they will have 6 dB, gives a bit of headroom, and they'll make their adjustments. If your tune is shit, then they will tell you that it's shit. Well, won't directly tell you it's shit, but they won't accept your demo. Or yeah, if you send it to a professional and they said, hey, look, something is too loud, your sub is too loud, or maybe your sub can come up a little bit more, just send it to professionals, get your feedback, don't show anyone, and just take what you learn. And that's exactly what I did. I went through probably 2 or 3 demos before this one, before I made this tune. I made a few other tunes, I just didn't really know what I was doing, and then yeah, I sent them off away, and they told me what was wrong, what was right, and then I took it with a grain of salt. Don't take it to heart. And then I came back with what I learned, and I made this. Yeah. Amazing. That's pretty much it, I guess. Yes. Oh, and if you are making bass or a main element like a synth or an ARP or something like that, it doesn't hurt to put on either Signalizer or Span. See what it's doing. It's good to know if things are too wide or not wide enough, or too mono or whatsoever. It's better to keep your bass, well, depends on what it is, your lower frequencies in the mono frequency section, and then your higher end frequencies in the stereo. There's different ways of doing it. Funny thing is, like the Circles bootleg, the OG one, is very, very mono. But hey, look, it works. It sounds great. And depending on your professional that you send it to, they might have different opinions. But depending on what you're trying to achieve, is yeah, just make something, send it to a professional, get some feedback. If they don't give you feedback, try someone else. Just keep trying, and then someone will write you a novel, and you go through it, and it'll just carve you into what you are today. So, best of luck. Anyway, that's the end of that. Oh yeah, also, most important thing is finish your damn tunes, man. Don't write half one, but oh yeah, it's kind of sick. Might finish later, feel cute. But just finish your damn tunes. Finish a whole entire song. Finish the project. Set up a goal. Set up a timeline. Be like, I want to do this. Don't chase clout. Make your own music. Do what you want to do. Just don't be afraid of what everyone else thinks. Just do whatever you feel like doing. Let your creativity flow, man. Now I feel like Bob Ross, the Bob Ross of Neurofunk. Just really grow an afro, buy some canvas. Yeah. For those of you who know me, any questions, hit me up. If you don't know me, look for me, Kendall Intercept. I'm all over socials. Find me, send me a message, ask me a lot of questions. Yes, I will be making more music soon, do some track breakdowns, but yeah, more to come. Stay tuned. Anyway, sayonara. Good night.